Kentucky went on the road, closed the regular season with a convincing win over Missouri. Kentucky leads the nation in top 10 wins, top 15 wins. Kind of a surprise for Mark Pope's squad, but they go on the road, get it done again. Big game from Otega Owe, big game from Andrew Carr. Subi, does this game, the results say more about Kentucky and what we should expect from Kentucky moving forward, or more about Missouri and the fact that they're struggling at the wrong time?
It's funny coming into this game. I think you and I both agreed that this was a bigger game for Mizzou. But
Yeah.
as we exit the game, I actually think this tells me way more about Kentucky, and it tells me a substantially good amount about Kentucky. Like I say, good is in positive.
Yeah.
You mentioned them as business, like that's what this game was.
Yeah.
And they maybe I completely misread them, and I apologize to BBN. I apologize to Coach Pope. I apologize to the players. I just thought this was a game where you're like, let's get healthy. Maybe we'll stay competitive. Of course, you want to win, but that's not the highest priority. It was a virtuoso performance in this spot. Of course, Mizzou doesn't look good, and they're not playing well at the wrong time. But this tells me a ton about Kentucky, and specifically, shout out to Andrew Carr, 16 and 12. I think it's important to call out his sequence at the end of the game to draw a foul. He stonewalled Cruz, I believe it was, for Mizzou, and then he had an and one. This tells me a lot about Kentucky, though, man.
It really does. And we talked about this in the preview too. Andrew Carr getting back to being the Andrew Carr from the first month or two of the season is something that we've needed to see. Injuries have played a role. He's been nicked up and fighting through that. But this was the first game I thought he was like really back to being that. And he has scored in double figures now in 4 of the last 6 games. Like it seems like he's rounding into form. And when he gives them that true like stretch big option out there, it changes what Kentucky can do and wants to do. Amari Williams was huge down low too. We talked about how they needed to be big, and they were. They were fantastic. But I got to talk about Otega Owe again as well because he has drawn the ire of Kentucky fans because he's 6 of 17 from the field. And why are you shooting 17 shots when you maybe the third or fourth best player on the team? They needed his aggression, man. Like getting the line 10 times, finished with 22 points, came up with 3 steals. Like I thought he played the way like he has, and Kentucky needs him to be that because I thought it opened things up for the bigs, opened things up for Kobe Brea to get some more threes. It kept the offensive creation responsibility off of Lamont Butler as much, gave him like you had 2 guys who could do that now. I think that's key for Kentucky as well.
Yeah, and I just thought that the distribution for Kentucky, if we look at their starters, right, I just thought it was really balanced.
Yeah.
Carr, Williams had 14. You mentioned Owe, and then Kobe Brea. Lamont Butler, I don't know how he's feeling 100% health wise, but how about Amari Williams? No,
Yeah.
not Amari Williams, excuse me. Yes, Amari Williams, 10 of 12 from the line. I thought that
Yeah.
was actually really important as well. It just seemed like a really comprehensive effort. But Ralph, if we really want to boil it down, this game came down to 3-point shooting percentage. And this is why I said in the preview, I don't want to be a Missouri fan because it's the epitome of, it might sound cliche and tired, but it is the epitome of live and die by the three.
Mhm.
And more specifically, they play well when Caleb Grill plays well. He did not have a terrific game. And we saw that reflected in the scoreline. And it was a scoreline that actually wasn't as close as it might have read. Like Kentucky really took this game by the throat and put it away. But the 3-point line, man, I mean, Kentucky, they were sizzling.
Yeah.
55% from beyond the arc. Mizzou only 40%. And I say only 40% because number one, Missouri has the ability to shoot mid 40s, and
Right.
that's when they're extremely dangerous. I'm not even going to write them off as a outside dark horse Final Four team, despite the way that they're playing. They can't defend, so maybe that. But neither could Bama last year. I don't know, man. These SEC teams that can shoot like hell but can't defend. I don't know. Maybe we will see them in San Antonio. I'm getting off the rails here. The difference, though, is that Kentucky just ripped the leather off the ball. And again, this dovetails a little bit into Missouri's defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do think Missouri's defense had at least something to do with that. Kentucky can make a lot of threes, but Missouri's defense, the last 6 games, is giving up 90.1. I think it was like 90.08 points per game or 90.8 points per game. The only reason it's that low is because you only allowed 71 to South Carolina. Every other game has been 90 plus, and it's been bad. I wrote in a column after the Alabama win that Missouri like had a chance to make a real run, and we should be taking them a little bit more seriously because of what they had done. I think I've reversed course in just the way they've closed this season because of how bad that defense is. Like, they can get hot and they can probably win a game, but I don't know if I trust their consistency now because of what they're not doing on the defensive end. It's alarming to me.
It should be alarming. And I just think though I don't know if I'm going to write them off. I don't know if I'm going to write a reverse course on them, Ralph, just because of I've seen them get hot, and I feel like that would be enough if they get like 2 games of hot shooting. I mean, look, this is a team that
Yeah.
probably should have gone to the Sweet 16 in year one of Dennis Gates's tenure. That's no disrespect to Princeton, and the personnel is different. But I can't write off this Missouri team just yet. If the night's right, like in the stars align, there's a possibility there. I will give Missouri credit as well because I thought this was going to be a disadvantage entering the game, but rebounding, they did a really good job on the
Yeah.
glass, and they actually hung tight in this game as a result of second chance points. I didn't think that was going to be the case, right? But then again, you look across and you're like, man, this defense, there was just zero resistance. I think they got it to within 7 or 8, and Kentucky just blew it back open. So I think we're a little torn on how we want to move forward with Missouri. I got to see how the bracket shakes out. I got to see how SEC tournament matters as well.
Yes.
But are we aligned that Kentucky looks as dangerous as they have all season, or is it no because they're not 100% healthy?
I don't know if they're as dangerous as they've looked all season because they have some like elite wins, truly elite wins when they were fully healthy. And I think you need Jackson Robinson to get those kind of wins in a non-fluky manner. But I think we feel pretty confident. Like we talked about this in the preview too. If Kentucky wins a game in the NCAA tournament, it's a successful season because that's something that you weren't able to do, and the whole coaching change and everything. If you're able to win a game and perhaps go further than Arkansas in the NCAA tournament, it's a successful season. I think this team can do that. I think this team can make a second weekend, and I there were some questions about that because of the way they were playing defense about a month ago. But it seems they've righted that ship. It's on Missouri now to right that ship for themselves. You can question, whether like the SEC tournament or power conference tournaments truly matter outside of somebody getting an auto bid that would not get in. We've seen that argument kind of rise last couple of years because the committee doesn't seem to change seedings a whole lot for teams that are in based on conference tournament wins. But this is when it matters for Missouri. You
Oh
gotta
yeah.
you gotta get right. You gotta figure some things out because one of the reasons why I have flipped Kentucky's awesome offensively. So like understand that. But Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, the other losses in this 5 game stretch, bottom half in the SEC in offense. Arkansas is 14th, Oklahoma's 11th. Vandy's ninth, like just at the cutoff. It's not like you're giving up 90 plus to really good teams like Kentucky all the time. You're
Mm-hmm.
giving up 90 plus to some bad offenses. And so if you're able to get into the SEC tournament, win some games, right the ship, get kind of the sense of a tournament too. I think that could go a long way, but I don't like where they're headed right now. Like I think these two are headed in completely opposite directions.
Totally. So I'll end this on 3 points. Number one, I think you're a fool, even if it's a big time tournament, to not place any value in how a
Oh,
team's playing.
100%.
As it relates to seeding, maybe, but I take a lot of what happens in these conference tournaments into account. Number one. Number two, as it relates to this game specifically, I know we want to fixate on Caleb Grill, and he is the X factor. We discussed this in the preview. When he plays well, Missouri plays well. He did not play well, sure, but neither did the rest of the team for the most part. And I'm going to specifically talk
Yeah.
about the starters outside of Mark Mitchell. I mean, single digits across the board, not a lot of production, rebounding the basketball. Actually, you know what? Sharing the basketball. I think Mizzou ended with 9 total assists, not good enough. So, yeah, look, Caleb Grill will get the attention, but this was a comprehensive failure from Dennis Gates' squad. Very last thing though, as it relates to Caleb Grill, I thought the embrace. I know we like to have fun. We had fun in the preview. The embrace between him and Dennis Gates was awesome, and then
Yeah.
we saw his parents as well zooming in on the camera. His mom crying. I thought that was a really really tremendous shot, despite the loss. Caleb Grill's had a up and down career, I suppose you could say, but although I'm sure he wanted the win, that was a really lovely moment, I thought.
Yeah. It brings back some of like the actual college nature and the development of people part of this that often gets lost between the NIL conversations and them being public figures and things like that. So that was it's a nice moment. That was good on you to bring that up. That was very nice. Between that and Cooper Flagg's mom yelling at UNC that he had dunked on everyone's bleeping heads. Good weekend for parents.
I mean, look, we could just belabor the point that Missouri's defense is horrific, but I wanted to end on a high note.
Good high note to end on. I like that. I like that.